Hey, welcome into Dolphins Today. And if you want more Dolphins content, it's real simple. You got to smash that like button on today's video, and we'll continue pumping out the content each and every day leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft, into free agency and beyond. But you got to help me out. Like this video. It doesn't cost you anything. Takes 2 seconds. And hey, let's see if we can get to 500 likes. And let's get it going on Dolphins Today. Welcome one, welcome all. I am your host of Dolphins Today, Jake Riepma. Happy to have you along. And we got a lot to get into, that's for sure. On today's show, we'll talk about the Dolphins Postseason Awards and some of the nominees and finalists that were named by the NFL, as well as some news and rumors. Things are happening fast. Obviously, we had the departure of Vic Fangio, so the defensive coordinator position is open for the Dolphins, and there's been a lot of staff changes. Don't worry, we'll run through them all, but let's start with the good news. The Miami Dolphins have not one, but two players up for some AP postseason awards, starting with Tua Tagovailoa, who is nominated as a candidate for the Offensive Player of the Year. The Comeback Player of the Year for the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, a nominee for Comeback Player of the Year. And how about the Cheetah? Oh, yeah. Tyreek Hill, nominated for Offensive Player of the Year. So shout out to both of these guys here. And you got to love the graphics team, hard at work. It's the offseason, but they're still pumping out great content like this. Tyreek Hill, nominee for Offensive Player of the Year and a finalist, as well as Tua Tagovailoa, finalist for Comeback Player of the Year. So, who is Tua up against for that Comeback Player of the Year? Well, there's a lot of names on this list that are certainly deserving of the award. You got Joe Flacco, Damar Hamlin, obviously, and his story is a lot larger than football, that's for sure. Baker Mayfield showed great resiliency and really kind of rejuvenating his career in Tampa Bay. Matthew Stafford battled injuries and put together a great season for the Rams. But you know what? I got to be honest, I've heard enough of Stafford's story. And how about Tua Tagovailoa? It's a guy who went through all kinds of adversity last year. Everybody said he couldn't stay healthy, and he played all 17 games and had a tremendous year doing so, led the NFL in passing yards, several other statistics as well. So I know in my heart that Tua is deserving of that Comeback Player of the Year. A lot of big names on that list, but let me know what you think. Does Tua deserve the Comeback Player of the Year award? It's real simple. Type Y for yes or N for no. And here is why I think the stats really back it up as far as Tua making a case for the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year. You can start with that top category and the number of games played. He played all 17 this year, and he went through some very, very difficult injuries in 2022. As I mentioned, for this season, 2023, led the NFL in passing yards with 4,624 of them. And oh yeah, that was very, very impressive. The 29 touchdowns, a little more on the interception side this year, but he played in all 17 games, so you somewhat expect that. So with that said, I think Tua exemplifies what it means to fight through adversity, come back stronger than ever, and display a level of offensive prowess that is worthy of the Offensive Comeback Player of the Year. So if I were in charge of the award, it would be the one and only, number one on the field, number one in our hearts, Tua Tagovailoa earning that award. Now, let's make the case for Tyreek Hill as the Offensive Player of the Year. We will do that next, but first, I want to show you these awesome threads, Miami Dolphins swag that you can get on Fanatics. They are awesome, and I'm telling you what, I like the NFL Blitz t-shirt. This baby's never going out of style. A little throwback paying homage to the one and only Dan Marino. We'll put the link in the chat if you want to snag one of these. Use our special code as well. But your one-stop shop for all the Dolphins swag that you need is at Fanatics. And like I said, we'll put that link down in the description of today's video. Now, should the Cheetah be the Offensive Player of the Year? I think it's very simple. Yes, maybe you got Lamar Jackson as your MVP. Tyreek Hill is your Offensive Player of the Year. So who are the other nominees? Well, it looks like this. And as I mentioned, Lamar Jackson, I do think is going to win the MVP. CD Lamb, another wide receiver up there. And why not? He had a great year, set a franchise record for the Cowboys. And obviously, we know how historic the Dallas Cowboys franchise is. And anytime a receiver sets the single season record for yards there, that's certainly noteworthy. Christian McCaffrey, a touchdown machine. His team's still playing. You got to give them credit. Christian McCaffrey at the running back position. Dak's on the list too, but he's at the bottom of the list in my opinion. What did Dak do, right? The Cowboys didn't win a playoff game. I guess you could say the same about the Dolphins. But let's look at the comparison between Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb, right? So Tyreek missed one of the games. That's why you see 16 games played for Tyreek Hill compared to 17 for CeeDee. And even playing one less game than CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek had more receiving yards, 1,799 compared to the 1,749 in CD. It's very close. And more touchdowns. So I give the nod to Tyreek Hill. Like I said, I do think Lamar Jackson's going to get the MVP, and therefore Tyreek Hill is the next best offensive player, and he should be the Offensive Player of the Year. I'm pretty confident that he will earn the award, but how about you? Let me know down in the comments. Scale it for me, 1 through 10. I'm at about a 10. He's deserving of the award, nearly set a record for the most receiving yards in a single season. Calvin Johnson still holds that record, but you get the point. I'm confident I'm putting down a 10 there. Now, let's turn our attention to some of the coaching rumors, because as we know, the Dolphins looking to hire a new defensive coordinator with the departure of Vic Fangio. And so who are some of those hot candidates? Well, Adam Schefter tweeting this out, that former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley's meeting with the Packers and will meet with the Dolphins over the weekend. So remember, Packers have an opening, Dolphins have an opening, both at the defensive coordinator spot. And when you look at Brandon Staley's resume, there's a lot to be excited about. He was the head coach for the Chargers from 2021 to 2023. They made the playoffs last year, but they had that epic collapse in the first round against the Jags. Now, that said, when he was the defensive coordinator for the Rams in 2020, he coached guys like Jalen Ramsey, and that was a great defense. Obviously, Aaron Donald was the game record. He had some tools to work with on the defensive side, but as a defensive coordinator, he really made his mark, and that's how he got hired as a head coach for the Chargers. And one more thing, he has the same agent as Mike McDaniel, so there's a level of continuity there, some chemistry there, and I think it really bodes well for a potential coaching candidate when you have an all-pro caliber player like Jalen Ramsey speak positively on your behalf. And check out what Ramsey had to say about Brandon Staley, saying he is the best defensive coordinator that I've had in the NFL. He knows how to put players in positions to make an impact on the game. Keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, doesn't leave much to the imagination. Obviously, when Jalen Ramsey calls Brandon Staley the best defensive coordinator he's ever had. So I think there's a lot to be excited about in bringing Brandon Staley in as a potential defensive coordinator. Now, bringing some coaches in, some coaches are on their way out. This from the Fins Extra. The Dolphins have parted ways with offensive assistants Ricardo Allen, Mike Judge, and assistant special teams coach Brendan Farrell. And it's all part of a number of changes that are taking place on Mike McDaniel's coaching staff. So let's get you caught up on all of them. And again, we are very early in the offseason, but here's a list of Dolphins coaches that are out. Bye. See ya. We know Vic Fangio heading to Philadelphia. Ricardo Allen, who is an offensive assistant. Kolby Smith, offensive assistant. Mike Judge, offensive assistant. And on the special team side of things, we talked about how bad the Dolphins special teams were this year, aside from Jason Sanders having a great year kicking the ball. But Brendan Farrell, special teams assistant, he gone. So you get the idea. A number of coaches on the 2023 staff on their way out. So there's been a lot of coaching turnover, and you start to get a little bit concerned about why those coaching turnover are taking place. And I'm wondering if it's something that you're extremely concerned about. So let me know down in the comments, are you concerned about the turnover in the coaching staff? It's real simple. If you are, go ahead and let me know. If not, say it's nothing to worry about. Either way, let me know down in the comments. I'm not particularly or overly concerned about the turnover in the coaching staff. These things happen from year to year, and I think Mike McDaniel nailed it in his post-game press conference when he said, I'm focused on next year, and we are evaluating different processes and how we can get there. So sometimes turnover happens. And speaking of turnover, there could be one more coming. We'll keep you updated on this as Texas is expected to hire Miami Dolphins assistant defensive line coach Kenny Baker as its new defensive line coach. This is a report coming out from 247 Sports, 24/7 Sports, covering the Texas Longhorns. So that could be one more coach that's on its way out, Kenny Baker, to become the Texas's new defensive line coach. And all that said, again, I don't think it's anything to really be overly concerned with. Out with the old, in with the new. We're all about progress and improving not only the roster, but of course the team overall and the coaching staff as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this edition of Dolphins Today. If you made it to the video and you haven't yet liked it, what are you doing? Help us out. Like that video. We try to get to 500 likes. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And shout out to my guy Colin on the ones and twos, keeping us on the air for Dolphins Today. Appreciate everything he does for this program. And hey, we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.